Chapter 26. Cora. Aunt Nellie winked at Cora as she left during the midnight dinner at the monthly Twickenham Manor full moon ball while the ley lines were active. The house staff was never sure if someone would pop in, but tonight, Cora would fall into the fairy magic and go back to her century. She squeezed Simon's hand under the table, and they stood together, following Nellie to the top floor of the manor house. Simon stood in the doorway, staring at the mural at the end of the room. "So, not just you?" he asked. "All of the Americans who visited?" Cora looked at the faces of her college roommates and felt sorrow tightening her throat. She would miss them. But that's the way of graduations. Everyone moves on to the rest of their lives. We all came together, but they went back without me. I still had some very important business. She reached for his hand with both of hers and pulled him along as she walked backward into the room. "Are you going to be okay watching this? I admit it was a little disconcerting for me to see my friends disappear." Simon didn't answer right away, but Cora noticed his eyes fixed to the mural. "Maybe, Simon, you'll be the first to travel without the ley lines." Aunt Nellie smiled. "I'm experimenting with that." Her face took on a worried look. "But not now. There would be horrible results." She began muttering. "I've not blown up a mammal." She shivered, then replied to Simon again. "No, not now." Cora watched emotions play across Simon's face. Fear, surprise, questioning, wonder. He pulled Cora into his arms. She leaned into him and hugged him tightly. It would be hard to let go, to miss this while she was away. But she had to say goodbye to her other life, to people she knew, and to her parents. And when she came back, she would have his comfort and closeness for the rest of her life. Simon whispered in her ear, "You'll come back." His arms pulled her even closer to him. Cora's head leaned back, and she saw concern in his deep blue eyes. "I'll come back with my dowry on the next full moon, our wedding day. You'll have time to read the banns and move your mother to the cottage." Oh, she was going to miss those eyes. She laid her cheek against his chest. "You'll need a minute." Aunt Nellie cleared her throat. "I'll just put some more magic on the mural. Over there. You can never have too much, really." She waved her hand over her shoulder as she walked away. "Take your time. I have plenty of time. Quite literally." Cora and Simon moved to stand by the window at the far end of the room. They stood silently together, enjoying the closeness. Cora knew she had something to ask, but had never found the right time. It would make no difference to her, but she needed Simon to know that he also had a choice. "The day I told you about me and my time, there was something I didn't tell you about." She took a breath and plunged in. "Doctors can do much more than you would imagine. They could likely return your hearing, or at the least improve it." She looked into his face and saw curiosity and maybe a little worry around the eyes. "I choose to be here, but if you want to go with me instead, we could go back together while Nellie figures that out." "You needn't worry. When you confessed that you were from the future, you mentioned medical advances. I've wondered about that many times. If it was possible, what would I do? I was tempted by the idea." Simon's knuckles softly grazed Cora's cheek, sending a delicious chill down her spine. "I've learned much from the change that losing my hearing wrought in my life, and I may yet learn from it." His arm circled her shoulders and pulled her closer. "The school. Who would have done it if not someone who came to understand the needs of the children? If I left, who would carry on? And who would care for my family? No, I would not change myself." The last thing Cora wanted was for Simon to think she thought something was wrong with him. There wasn't. "In every way, you're perfect, and perfect for me. I just wanted you to know." "I'm asking so much of you. Your world has incredible things I can't even dream of here. Can you give all that up?" he asked. "It's pretty amazing here, too." Her hands pushed up on his chest and behind his neck. "Don't think I've made this decision lightly." She stretched on her toes, slowly sliding up in the circle of his arms. "I think I'm going to love it here." She kissed his jaw and felt it clench beneath her lips. From the other side of the room, Aunt Nellie's voice giggled as she said, "And now I'd better go get paint or fairy dust or some such, or just leave. Well, open the door when you're ready." Cora was grateful to have a few more moments with Simon. She felt excited and anxious and nervous all at once. She studied his face, memorized each angle and curve. Though not quite dimples, his grin created 2 little creases that framed his smile. Her fingers skimmed over his cheeks, jaw, and chin. Then her thumb brushed his lips before she kissed him. The fingers on her right hand slid up his neck and into his sandy hair. Simon swooped her legs from beneath her and carried her to the sofa, but his lips were on hers as they moved. The strength in his arms flamed her desire. He carried her as if she were weightless. Then, just as quickly, she was sitting on his lap, kissing him and being kissed in return. It could have been minutes or hours. His chest rose and fell with deep, slow breaths. Her heart thrilled to know that when she returned, she would lie beside him and wake each morning to his love. He whispered her name as his lips caressed her neck. Her head tilted back, and Simon nibbled at the soft skin where her neck met her shoulder, coaxing a giggle from her. "Do you have to leave?" he asked. "We'll have more money than we could ever spend. You don't need to go for your dowry." Yes, her heart told her she had to go to this time, but one day she would gladly say no. Her chest burned at both answers. "Yes, I have to go. I have friends to see and goodbyes to say. I'd like to bring my dowry anyway. It's a gift from my father." Simon didn't say more, but cuddled her to his chest as they sat silently. After a long moment, he asked, "Is it time?" Cora's hand cupped his jaw, and her head tilted until her temple rested against his. "Yes." They stood, and Simon went to open the door and returned. He lifted her wrist to his lips and kissed it gently. "I find it hard not to touch you." He held his lips to her skin for several seconds before saying, "I wrote you a letter." Then he pulled out a folded page. When Cora reached for it, he said, "I could give it to you now, but where's the fun in that?" He walked to the window and lifted the sill, revealing a pocket between the stone exterior and the plastered lapboard wall. "It will be waiting for you here." Aunt Nellie came in holding a pouch Cora recognized. "I suppose you're ready to get after it." Cora nodded and took a step. Simon pulled her back, caging her within his arms tightly against his solid chest. His mouth fell on hers, and Cora gave back every feeling he infused in the kiss, a kiss of promises and love and a lifetime of passion. When they separated, Nellie walked with Cora to the wall. She backed up to it and raised one foot against it. "Are you ready?" Nellie said, holding the little purse open and dipping out an amount of dust into her palm. Then she drew what looked like a clock in the dust. "Does it hurt?" Simon asked. At the same time, Nellie said, "No." Cora answered, "A little." Cora looked at Nellie sideways. Cora had fibbed a bit. Yes, it hurt, but she didn't want Simon to know the extent. Aunt Nellie's hands lifted in front of her, then packed a magical ball tightly in her palms. The glow from the coalescing dust intensified. Cora heard a little gasp from Simon and noticed that Nellie's whole body was glowing. "It won't be long now." "Here you go!" Nellie shouted, holding the magic like a pulsing star. Then she clapped her hands together. Light submerged Cora in a complete whiteout, and the bits of magic fired through her. The feeling of being sandblasted subsided as quickly as it had begun. It took a moment for her eyes to adjust after the lightning faded. Her friends were tumbled on the rug around her. Her head spun, but seemed to be slowing, centering. Cora was lying on her back, looking at the modern chandelier that hung from the medallion in the center of the room above. "It worked," she whispered to herself, then louder to the group. "It worked!" Although she'd been sent back 2 months after her friends, she'd arrived at the same time. "You doubted me?" the modern Nellie said, lifting her hands to her heart as if she were aghast. Cora stood, then stumbled to the window casing and leaned against it. The whirling in her head grew, and she blinked her eyes hard, mentally pushing back a wave of nausea. She sank to her knees. "Take a moment to breathe. Your letter is safely there. It won't do to knock yourself out cold before you can read it." Cora would have sworn that Nellie looked identical, or even a little younger than the version of herself she'd just left. "You look exactly the same," she said while pushing to a stand. "Pish posh! I don't. This is a new dress." Nellie gave Cora a quick hug, her cheek pressing to Cora's. "It feels like ages since I saw you. The other you, anyway. You have lots to do now, don't you? We'll chat later." Cora could see everyone there, Reese, Caitlin, Cyrus and Jem, and she'd arrived at the same time as they had. Aunt Nellie turned to the rest of the group. "Welcome back. I've been expecting you." She lifted her arm and looked at the watch on her wrist. "For the last 43 minutes or so. That's the way of the magic. It can drop you right back where you started, for the most part." Then she mumbled, "When all goes well." She walked around, greeting her returning guests. A tray of tea sat on a table. "May I offer you some refreshment?" she asked the group. "Is it your special spiked version?" Cora asked. Nellie smiled. "Yes, it is special. And it is spiked, but not to help you accept your circumstances this time, only to give you energy." The group accepted. Then, a few minutes later, several other fairies entered to escort everyone to their rooms. Cora hung back for a moment. When everyone was gone, she retrieved the letter from the wall before being accompanied to her room. "Ring the bell, miss, if you need anything." The Fey woman pointed to the silk rope behind the canopy drapes. "Thank you, Miller. I'm glad you're still here." "As you say, miss." Cora walked to the mini-fridge and pulled out a bottle of water, downing it in seconds. Apparently, thirst was a side effect of travelling by molecule. Then Cora sat on the edge of her bed and opened Simon's letter. "My dearest love." The salutation pierced Cora. The 3 words created longing and comfort for her. Simon might still be in the room with the mural or on the grounds of Twickenham Manor. She had been in his arms less than 10 minutes ago, but the ache of separation brought tears to her eyes. She blotted them with a tissue and continued to read. "I am filled with both hope and sorrow. Although I've waited a lifetime for you, I find it hard to cheerfully wait another month. Know this, not a moment will pass without memories of you swamping my mind. You will never be truly gone to me. You, your essence, will stay with me. I admire how fierce you can be, yet gentle, especially with children. I respect you for your acceptance, your understanding, your sense of right. I adore you for your unselfish gift of music. You are my world, my life. I will cherish you for all time. Even now, my heart is in the future, and I long to hold you soon. Faithfully yours, Simon. P.S. I love you."